I was lounging on my porch, sipping sweet tea from a glass that had seen more years than most folks around here, when a dust cloud kicked up from the gravel road like a tumbleweed with a grudge. At first, I figured it was just the wind putting on a show, but then I spotted the 5 hard hats stomping across my family's farmland like they'd staked their claim. One of them, a wiry young guy with a clipboard and a twitchy eye, marched straight to the center of my field and drove a wooden stake into the ground like he was planting his flag. Attached to it was a glaring orange sign, Future Site of Pine Hollow Estates, Phase 2. I nearly choked on my tea, not the theatrical kind, but the real deal where your eyes sting and you wonder if this is how it all ends, done in by mint leaves and HOA nerve. I ambled over slow and steady the way an old hound sizes up a snake. The kid glanced up startled and asked if I was one of the locals. I told him I was the local, the guy whose granddad bought this land back when Teddy Roosevelt was still kicking. He blinked like I'd rattled off a code he couldn't crack, then waved at the sign. This parcel's been clear for development by the HOA, sir. We've got permits. Permits? I told him to show me a name and inami on those papers that matched mine. He fumbled through his folder, and there it was, bold as brass, HOA property transfer, Grayson. My name, my land, but somehow under someone else's thumb. I hadn't sold a thing, hadn't skipped a tax payment, hadn't leased out so much as a corner. Yet, according to this, the whole southern chunk of my farmland, 700 acres of rich, sun-soaked earth, was now in the hands of some outfit called Horizon Ridge Holdings. It hit me like a kick to the chest. That land had been ours for 4 generations. My dad worked it with mules. I laid irrigation pipes with my own hands before these HA types were out of training wheels. Now some desk jockeys in ties were set to turn it into luxury condos with a rustic VYB. I called the county office right there. Speakerphone blaring while the clipboard crew shuffled in the dust. The lady on the line confirmed the nightmare. Yes, a deed transfer. Yes, filed legally. No record of me fighting it. That's when the red flags went up. I hadn't gotten a single notice, no calls, no letters, nothing. Next stop was the HOA office, or as I dubbed it, the petty throne room. I walked in, boots still caked with my own stolen dirt, and there she was, Loretta Hensley, president of the Cedar Ridge Homeowners Association. She sat behind her desk like a vulture with a purse, sipping some frothy caramel concoction from a cup the size of her ego. She didn't flinch when she saw me. She smirked, like a fox that had finally trapped its prey. "Mr. Grayson," she purred. "We've been expecting you. That's never a good opener." I said there had to be a mix-up. She gave me that slow, condescending blink people use before dropping something dumb, then slid a stack of files across the desk. "According to our records, your land was under lien for unpaid HOA fines since 2009. I laughed, not a polite chuckle, but a full-on guffaw from a guy who'd just been told his life got repoed over a parking ticket. She talked down to me like I was slow, saying I'd racked up $11,000 in fines over the years. For what? Non-compliance, she said. Unapproved fences, overgrown shrubs, a rooster complaint, and, get this, a plastic pink flamingo left in my yard for 37 days straight. I stared, wondering if this was a prank. It wasn't. They'd sent dozens of notices, she claimed. I asked to see proof. Most had gone to an address I hadn't lived at in 15 years. Convenient. Since I didn't reply, they'd escalated it to abandonment and sold it off to cover the fees. I asked if she thought it made sense to sell 1,700 acres of prime land over a flamingo. Her answer? The bylaws are crystal clear. That's when I knew I was up against a petty tyrant with a clipboard and a vendetta. I went home fuming, the kind of mad only old-timers and country singers get. I needed answers and leverage. That's when I cracked open the rusty filing cabinet in my shed, the one with the faded Grayson Water Rights private sticker. Most folks don't know this, but before I retired I was the state's regional hydrologist. I built the aquifer system that keeps this valley alive. When the county wouldn't upgrade it, I did it myself, legally securing the water rights under my land and beyond, including the parts feeding Cedar Ridge. Every drop in their sprinklers, sinks, and hot tubs? Mine. They'd sold my land, but they didn't know I held their lifeline. A slow, wicked grin crept across my face. You don't cross an old man who's laid more pipe than he's told secrets. Loretta and her posse had picked a fight with the wrong geezer. While they dreamed of gated communities, I was about to make their HOA politics as dry as their lawns. The next morning, the sun blazed like it didn't care about the betrayal I'd just uncovered. I stood on my porch, watching a squirrel scratch itself on a stump, sipping bitter coffee as 1,000 sprinklers hum to life across Cedar Ridge's perfect lawns. That's when it hit me, wouldn't shout or lawyer up yet. I'd hit them where it hurt, convenience. Those HOA folks love their green yards more than their rules. That day the neighborhood was buzzing for their big summer garden contest, where they'd strut their roses and petunias like gladiators. Loretta had been crowing about her hydrangea's fancy soil, Dula 600 fertilizer, a design supposedly visible from space. She stood in her driveway, barking at landscapers under a sun hat the size of a platter, clipboard in hand. It was too perfect to ruin. I strolled to Zone B, the aquifer section feeding her street, and with a wrench and gloves I tweaked the valves. One turn, maybe two, and her garden's water supply got selective drought syndrome. By afternoon, her prized hydrangeas would be toast. Sure enough, complaints rolled in. Mrs. Carter next door fanned herself, muttering about wilting petunias. Two dads bickered over broken timers while their kids kicked dust. Then came Loretta. When her flowers drooped, she stormed out, face red as a hornet's sting, shaking her hose like it had betrayed her, then marched off to the HOA office. I sat on my porch pretending to read the paper, savoring her meltdown. That's when the news van pulled up. Someone, me with a burner phone and a spot on Loretta impression, had tipped them off about community water sabotage. A young reporter with slick hair knocked on my gate. I gave him my best grandpa smile, invited him for lemonade, and spilled the whole tale: how the HOA stole my land, how I owned their water, how equipment fails sometimes. He lapped it up. On camera I said I just want my land back. But if they want a desert, I'll oblige. It went viral memes everywhere. My favorite? Loretta with a dead plant, captioned HO versus H2, no. By dusk, Loretta was unraveling, pacing with a Bluetooth and papers, barking about lawsuits and water incentives. I almost pitted her almost. Then I spotted hoses snaking through the hedges leading to a pump at the community pond. She'd rigged an illegal siphon to bypass my system, sucking water straight from the fire reserve like a dystopian gardener. I laughed so hard I nearly fell over. I let them sweat it out for a day, then strolled over during their secret hose huddle. Tapping my system with garden hoses? Cute, I said, flashing a laminated aquifer deed. That's trespassing and tampering, a misdemeanor. But I won't press charges. Yet. Loretta blanched. She muttered about lawyers. I told her to grow better tomatoes with them. That night, I shut off the last zones for maintenance, polishing my wrench as their sprinklers died. The neighborhood buzzed, brown lawns, rumors flying. Loretta called an emergency meeting, trying to pin it on me. I sat in back, quiet, until she claimed I was ruining aesthetic harmony. I stood. You mean when you sold my land illegally? Or when you rigged that pump? I handed over drone footage of her siphoning. The room erupted. She was done. Days later, Cedar Ridge was a wasteland of trust and turf. The meeting video blew up online. Loretta's stunned face captioned, "When the HOA queen crumbles." News drones filmed the carnage. But I dug deeper. This wasn't just petty fights, it stank of bigger rot. In the HOA's files, I found my land sold dirt cheap to Peakview WLLC, incorporated 4 months ago under Bryce Hensley, Loretta's brother. It screamed scam. Used the HOA to swipe my land, flip it for millions later. They thought I'd roll over. Wrong. I called my old buddy Ray, a forensics whiz. That night, we hit the HOA office. He plugged in a polite USB, copying everything while I kept watch. By morning, he had item mails, contracts, proof Loretta forged the sale, using a letterhead I'd made decades ago. She'd even pocketed Dula 9,500 from Peak VYEW. I sent copies to the DA, News and Fraud office, then walked one to the next HOA meeting. Loretta was mid-speech when I dropped the bomb files, emails, the works. The crowd lost it. She fled, cameras flashing. The fallout was swift. Loretta's accounts froze, the sale paused, and she was ousted. The developer sued, but my lawyer Margot had it covered. I didn't want her cash, just my land and her out. At a town hall, I offered to fix the water system for free, no HOA strings. People cheered. Loretta crashed it, claiming rights, but I showed her plotting email. She left broken. A month later, at my Great Rewatering barbecue, the community came alive. Kids played, grills smoked, and I unveiled a new irrigation setup. Loretta sent a letter, half apology, half sass, saying my system was over-engineered. I pinned it by a kid's drawing of me as a hose-wielding knight. Here's the kicker. The land she sold? A decoy parcel I'd split off years ago. The real stuff was untouchable under heritage laws. She lost everything: power, trust, pride. I kept my land, my grit, and a damn good laugh.